Remember gathering around the TV for your favorite shows? Like those big family hangouts. Well, today we're going to take a deep dive into how that whole shared experience kind of morphed into the personalized world of social media.
Hmm.
Our guide for this deep dive is this fascinating Medium article.
Okay.
It's called The Silent Screen
Interesting.
by Mohammed Akram,
I see.
and he's an AI and cybersecurity researcher.
Oh, wow.
And it was just published this month, January 2025.
So it's really refreshing.
Yeah. So, like, Akram kind of takes us back to what he calls TV's golden age.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but for me, that just brings up all these images of, like, family rituals, like gathered around watching those iconic 80s and 90s sitcoms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those shared cultural moments that TV just seemed to create so effortlessly. Yeah. But it wasn't just about the entertainment, right?
No, you're right. Akram argues that television, think about it. Back then, with the limited channels and the scheduled programming, it really acted as like a powerful unifying force.
Yeah.
Everyone tuned in at the same time, watched the same shows,
right,
and then they would discuss them the next day at work or school.
Yeah.
It really fostered a sense of like a shared experience. Almost like a national conversation in a way.
It's so interesting, right? Like just a TV schedule could shape a whole culture.
It is, yeah.
But then, Akram points out, social media came along and kind of burst onto the scene, right? With this promise of interactivity and personalization. And, we have platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
All those, yeah.
They offered something completely different from that passive TV experience.
Exactly. And suddenly, it wasn't just about watching anymore, right? It was about participating, liking, commenting, sharing. All of these things transformed us from these, like, passive viewers into active engagers.
I never thought about it like that.
And, for those who might not be familiar with the term, an algorithm is basically like a set of rules that determines what content you see on those platforms. It's designed to, like, personalize your experience, filtering information based on your past behavior and preferences.
So it's like instead of that shared experience we had with TV, social media creates all these individual bubbles of content, tailored just for us. That's a pretty big shift, I think.
It is. And Akram even uses the term, like, echo chambers to describe how these algorithms can reinforce our existing beliefs and limit our exposure to different perspectives. He's arguing that personalization, while appealing on the surface, can have, like, unintended consequences for how we understand the world and interact with those who hold different views.
Yeah. And it wasn't just about consuming this personalized content either, right? Suddenly anyone with a smartphone and internet could be a content creator, like a star in their own right. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok really, like, democratized that whole process of storytelling. Broke down those traditional barriers that existed in the world of television.
Absolutely. And Akram highlights how this really challenged, like, the established gatekeepers of media. The power shifted from large corporations and studios to individuals. So it led to a much more diverse and inclusive media landscape. But like with any major societal shift, there were trade-offs.
So this brings us to what Akram calls the downfall of traditional television. It just couldn't keep up with this fast-paced, on-demand, personalized world of social media.
Yeah. That's a key point Akram makes. He argues that TV, with its rigid scheduling and those expensive cable packages, simply couldn't compete with, like, the free, personalized, and instantly accessible world of social media. People weren't willing to wait a whole week for their favorite show or pay those, like, crazy fees for cable when they could get these, like, bite-sized entertainment and connect with like-minded people online for free.
Yeah, makes sense. And it wasn't even just about the cost, was it?
No, not really.
Like, social media, it really tapped into this, like, fundamental human need for connection and interaction.
Exactly.
It's like suddenly we could have conversations with people all over the world, share our thoughts and experiences, get instant feedback on everything, from, like, our latest culinary creation to our political views.
It's true. It's like this whole new way of being connected, like Akram was saying.
Right.
You hit on another really important point there, too.
Okay.
Akram emphasizes how social media really transformed how we communicate and how we connect. It's created all these online communities around shared interests, hobbies, and even social movements. It broke down geographical barriers, fostered a sense of belonging for many who might have felt like isolated or marginalized in their offline lives.
It's true. So, in a way, social media filled a void that traditional television, with that one-way communication, just couldn't.
Couldn't do.
But as Akram points out, this whole new era of connection and communication, it also came with its own set of challenges, right?
Yeah, I mean, he cautions against the potential pitfalls of information overload with so much content just like readily available at our fingertips.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like overwhelmed,
right.
Even anxious.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah.
You're bombarded with information from every direction.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to filter out the noise and find what's really relevant.
Right. And not forget that whole issue of unrealistic expectations,
right? That's a big one.
And comparison. It's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing our lives to the carefully curated highlight reels we see on social media. It just leads to feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Akram warns about the dangers of the comparison game, arguing it can really have a detrimental impact on our mental health and well-being. We have to remember that what we see on social media is often just a carefully constructed representation of reality, not necessarily an accurate reflection of someone's everyday life.
Right. It's like that old saying, don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel.
That's a good one.
But, amidst all this talk about the rise of social media, Akram also acknowledges that, television hasn't completely vanished, has it?
Well, that's an interesting observation. Akram argues that television has, adapted, found a new life online. Think about how news channels now share snippets of their broadcasts on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or how late night talk shows upload their clips to YouTube. It's a smart way for traditional media to tap into that huge audience and reach of social media.
Yeah.
Why not use it?
Right. So it's not a complete takeover. It's more like a merging of the two.
Yeah, exactly.
Television leveraging the reach of social media to kind of stay relevant in this new landscape.
Exactly. It's really become a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Television content often goes viral on social media, generates buzz, draws viewers back to that original source. It's a win-win, right? Traditional media benefits from the virality of these social platforms.
Right.
And the social media platforms, they benefit from the high quality content coming from the television networks and studios.
Yeah. This kind of makes me think about Akram's overall argument. It's not just about one medium replacing another.
Wow.
It's about how technology is constantly shaping our relationship with stories.
That's a great point. Akram reminds us that, this shift from that shared experience of television to the personalized world of social media.
Yeah.
It's just the latest chapter in a much longer story about how we consume and create narratives.
Right.
Think about the printing press, the radio, the internet. Each of these technological advancements revolutionized how we tell and how we receive stories. And ultimately, they shape how we understand the world around us.
And just as those earlier forms of media evolved and adapted, so too has television, right? It's not about clinging to the past, but it's about recognizing the power of storytelling, regardless of the platform, It's about finding those new and innovative ways to connect with audiences and share the stories that resonate with us, I guess, on a deeper level.
Absolutely. And Akram even suggests that this evolution is far from over, New platforms, they're constantly emerging, and the way we consume and create stories will continue to change. I think the key takeaway here is to remain aware of these shifts. And to really think critically about how they impact our own lives and our society as a whole.
So what does all of this mean for us, the listeners, as we navigate this ever-evolving media landscape? It really is a lot to think about, huh?
It is.
We've gone from gathering around the family TV to each of us scrolling through like our own personalized feeds. Akram really makes you stop and think about the impact of all that.
Yeah. And, one of his most powerful points, I think, is that technology itself, it's not like inherently good or bad.
Yeah.
It's just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in lots of different ways.
Right.
Social media, it can connect us, it can inform us, entertain us.
Right.
But it can also be used to like manipulate us.
Right.
Isolate us, distract us.
Yeah.
It all comes down to how we choose to use it, right?
That reminds me of something Akram said about like the importance of being critical consumers of media, regardless of the platform.
Yeah.
It's not about like demonizing social media or romanticizing the good old days of television.
Right.
It's just about being mindful, right, of how we engage with these tools and understanding the impact, I guess, that they have on our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of like those algorithms that are shaping our feeds. The biases that might be, embedded in the content we consume, the potential for misinformation to spread really quickly
Right.
in these online echo chambers. I mean, it's a lot to keep in mind, but it's like so crucial for navigating this digital world that we live in.
It makes you think about like how these platforms really influence our perception of the world, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's so easy to get caught up in like the latest viral trend or spend hours just scrolling through our feeds. But are we really connecting with the stories, or are we just passively absorbing them?
That's a great question. And maybe even more importantly, are we, actively shaping the stories that we tell? Or are we letting those algorithms dictate like the narratives that define our digital lives? Akram points out that like the power dynamics have shifted. We have way more control than ever before over the content we create and share. But we also face these like new challenges in terms of filtering information and figuring out like truth from falsehood.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Muhammad Akram's The Silent Screen, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
For me, I think it's, as we kind of navigate this new world of like personalized media, let's remember, the importance of those shared experiences, critical thinking and mindful engagement.
Yeah, it's
Technology will keep evolving, but our like human need for connection, for meaning, for authentic storytelling, that's going to remain constant. It's really up to us to harness the power of these tools while still being aware of, the potential pitfalls.
Beautifully said. So as you scroll through your feed tonight, think about this. Is it connecting you with others, or is it creating a world of isolation? And what does the future hold for, like how we share and consume stories? The answers, like Akram says, are going to shape the next chapter of our, digital lives. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.